Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. Grab your favorite bevy, pull up a chair, and enjoy the ride. Hey, B&B fam. This podcast is sponsored to you by BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Is there something getting in the way of your happiness? I know when I traveled the world, I had many days where BetterHelp's worldwide service of licensed professional therapists could have helped me speak to someone no matter where I was in the world about whatever was happening with my life, and with zero judgment. With their ability to match me with a therapist that best fits me, I know my mental health would have been way better back then. Believe me, I needed it. But I'm here to share a way for you to take back control of your mental health by telling you about BetterHelp's awesome services they have for you to talk with a pro about your life through their app or just online. Whether it is a video session or some simple messaging, their team is here to help. I went to check out the app for myself just to see how easy it was to use, and after a series of questions, I was told I would be able to start matching with a therapist in under 48 hours. And what is super rad is that it's affordable and they even offer financial aid too. So come join the 2 million users that have already been helped and gain back control of your mental health by visiting betterhelp.com/backyards for 10% off your first month. Remember, BetterHelp is therapy done securely online. Don't forget to use the special code BACKYARDS and let BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, help you to start living a happier life today. Hey, welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. We are in a special place today. We are at the home of Jared Blumenberg, a close friend of mine that I've known for almost a decade now of touring and being friends. And it's such an honor to have Jared on the show, but thank you for having us at your house, dude.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for being here.
Welcome. For a long time, it was really hard to try to get people. I think they were more comfortable coming to my house just because the show is just starting and stuff. But thank you for letting us come invade your space. Yeah. And this is where you hang out, huh? If you're not, I guess if you're not watching on YouTube, Jared lives in a kind of a nice little neighborhood, and there's some trees, and you live at the top of a hill.
A little bit, yeah.
It's a nice little view here. Yeah. Sunset's behind us, I'm assuming.
It is, yeah, kind of over, almost directly behind us.
Yeah.
So it's nice. Yeah, there's some good. This morning actually was a really nice sunrise over there.
It was,
and some mist and.
Yeah, Nashville definitely has some pretty sunrises. I will say that.
Yeah.
And you've been out this way for since I've known you, almost, right?
Yeah, we lived in Hermitage for like 5 years, and then moved out here, and we've been here almost 7.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, folks, Jared Blumenberg, he was a front of house guy for the country duo FGL you still are.
Still am. Yeah.
Still am. What was that? 8 years? No, you were there before even I.
This is my 10th year.
Wow,
10 years,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And for everyone that doesn't know what an FOH or front of house engineer does, Jared does the sound. So when you guys go to a concert, he's the one turning the knobs.
Acting like I know what I'm doing out front.
I think that it's one of those jobs where people think you're like flying a spaceship 90% of the time. Or if you tell them like, oh, I'm a sound engineer, they're like, oh, what'd you design? Yeah, well, nothing. It has a weird ring to it, but yeah. So I sat next to Jared for a good 7 years of your career with FGL.
Yep.
And you went around the world with them. I would always get kicked to the side because you didn't need me in every country.
Right.
But that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
But you and me started with fairly small, I guess smaller setup, and then by the end of it, we were doing stadiums.
We did some stadiums,
big, full-on 80,000 people stadiums.
Pretty crazy. It was fun.
Wild. I always, there's a couple that will always stay in my mind, and I think it's, like the Wrigley's, the Fenways, just because they're such iconic places. And what a cool thing. You started in a van with these guys 10 years ago.
I did one show in a van, and then we moved to a Sprinter, and we were in a Sprinter for a while, and then a bus.
And they just loved you.
I guess. I don't know.
No beard then?
No, I didn't. You're right. Yeah.
No beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over the years.
I could grow a beard.
You chose not. It wasn't the thing of it wasn't, that look hadn't really hit yet, I feel like.
Maybe.
I like it though.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, you do front of house. Okay, that's awesome. I love it. But I'm out of the music industry now, and I really started this podcast because I started to realize that so many people that were in my close friends group and even acquaintances had really cool like backstories. And even like when the pandemic hit, a lot of people went outside of themselves and like really found like passionate little side hustles. And I really was really impressed by your side hustle. And yeah, we could talk for hours about FGL and you being a front of house guy and, you know, all the wild times. But I think that there's some wild times that you've had over the last couple of years. You've been building decks.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah, started a little side business doing fences and decks.
That's incredible.
It was fun. Yeah. I kind of hung it back up because touring started back up, but
yeah.
But it was a fun challenge. Yeah, and it seemed like the perfect time to really give it a full go. And because I've always kind of done carpentry and stuff on the side just for fun, but as a business, I had never done that officially, and so.
A lot of people are scared to even take that adventure into, you know, starting an LLC for them, even in the touring world, because there's a lot to it and a lot of paperwork, but then really it's not.
Yeah, right. I mean, that was one of the biggest learning curves of the whole deal was figuring out what I didn't know I needed to know in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have to have workers' compensation insurance. Got it. I got it.
Well, before we get to that side hustle and kind of why I brought you on the show, I want to like go all the way back. So you're not from Nashville. You're from...
I grew up in northern Illinois, a little town called Rochelle.
Rochelle.
Yeah.
Was that in that movie League of Their Own?
No, that was Rockford.
Rockford.
But that was like 30 minutes north of us. So that was like when we went to the mall, we would go to Rockford.
All right. Because I felt like I was like, I've heard that name.
Yeah.
And did you do... Or how long did you live there, I guess? And then is that where you got your start in liking music? Because no one just goes into music without having kind of a little bit of a...
Yeah, so I grew up my whole childhood proper. I was born in Alabama, but only was there for a year. My dad's a pastor, and so he was in a church in Alabama. So I was born there, then moved to Illinois, and I lived there for, I guess, 18, 19 years.
That's amazing.
Started, like most kids, just did sports and whatever when I was young. But I think it was around 5th grade I started taking lessons on the baritone horn.
The baritone?
Which is like looks like a big trumpet or like a small tuba. Either like there's a couple of variations of it.
What noise does it make?
Like wah. Yeah. Yeah. So I took lessons doing that, and then just kind of like stayed in band and that kind of stuff. And then in high school, did marching band.
Okay.
And then around 8th grade, I took lessons from an older kid, taking lessons on bass guitar. And then kind of just figured out guitar a little bit as well, and drums a little bit, just kind of started dabbling in all that stuff.
Did you really, like when you look, what was the name of it? The baritone what?
Yeah, baritone horn.
Horn.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a music teacher that played the French horn.
Yeah. They're just really hard to play, apparently.
I was gonna say, you didn't have to jam your like arm up, because like I always saw her like, you know.
Yeah, it was similar. Like the baritone looks like a small tuba, so it does kind of sit on your lap.
Okay.
But it's only like this big.
Interesting.
And then I did end up switching. There's a story in there, but switched to tuba. I got hoodwinked. So I was playing bass in our jazz groups at high school. And that was what I wanted to do. Wanted to play bass. Didn't want to do marching band anymore. It was a small high school, so we didn't have a ton of kids.
Okay.
And the band director basically said, "I'll let you play bass guitar in the pit." So in marching band, like there's the pit at the bottom with the like xylophones and stuff. He let me play bass guitar for marching band in the pit because they had no low end.
And you were like,
so I was like, okay, whatever.
I'm in.
And then he said that like in the winter you go to concert band, you go back inside, and he was going to get an upright bass, and I would play with a bow and all that stuff. And that rolled around, and I came back after Christmas break, and I was like, where's the bass? And he goes, just go get the tuba. So then I played tuba for 2 years.
That stinks.
So
I was I played orchestra when I was younger, and I interviewed one of our mutual friends, Tom, on here, and he's a bass player.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I feel like the bass is one of those instruments that a lot of kids go to it just like accidentally for a minute and then get out of it and go maybe to a different instrument. But you don't hear a lot of people that are like, I just stuck with it, you know. And when I interviewed Tom, I thought it was awesome because he's a bass player.
Yeah. Same. So my uncle played bass when I was really young, and so I remember looking up to him, and I think I have one of his basses actually. It's an old like '70s era Ibanez that
Oh,
he
nice.
that he learned on, and so that was some of the like original reason I wanted to start playing bass.
Okay.
And
Have you ever actually done the bow with the bass?
Never have. Nope.
So since being in the orchestra, I that was what I played, and vice versa. I played the electric like twice, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Oh, I would just want to be in a band.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with Green Day, and all I wanted to do was
Yep.
be the what's his name? Whatever the bass player is for
Yep.
Green Day. I was like, yeah,
Yep.
that guy is just so cool. He
Yep.
had like a safety pin through his ear, and yeah, like the second time I played the bass, I was like, I'd look like him.
Yep.
No, I didn't. So, all right. So you grew up in music then, basically.
Kinda, yeah.
Your uncle played? Did your dad play?
Not instruments. No, my parents are both they sing.
They sang,
Yeah,
yeah?
my dad actually toured some when he was young, like in college, in like
Okay.
a vocal group kind of thing.
And I know your dad.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy. I
He
didn't know
is.
that he was a singer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And his whole side of the family is very musical in that way. They used to sit around singing growing up, like, so that was
Awesome.
something.
Yeah, I've never heard your dad sing, so I would have never just.
Yeah.
I mean, he's never just broken out at a show.
Yeah. He probably wouldn't, but he is. He's a good singer.
That's cool.
Yeah.
When you were younger, did you have a favorite style of music that you kind of like? Even though you played maybe in the bass, or
Yeah.
let's say you played in the marching band and all that stuff, but did you have like a style you'd go home to and be like, like that's fun, but I want to like
Yeah.
do this.
Well, definitely. I was just listening to your episode with Cal. It definitely like punk from
Punk
way
rock.
back. Yeah, that's like what I wanted to go home and listen to and play MXPX, trying to like play all the lines that Mike did and stuff.
Oh my gosh,
So
his
fun.
stuff's good.
Yeah.
He too was one of those players that you could watch him. Well, and we didn't have like YouTube and all those
Yeah.
things. So you had to wait for either a music video to come on, you
Yeah.
know, MTV,
Or go to a show.
or go to a
Yeah.
show. And to watch bands live, I felt like back in the day was such a more like intimate feeling, especially if you were like love punk rock music, even though
Yeah.
intimate and punk rock don't like necessarily go hand in hand.
Well, but like small shows though.
Going
to little clubs. and
yeah,
a few hundred kids just going wild.
kind of bouncing into each
Yeah.
other, and you're just like, wow, look at them up there, they're just rock stars. And
Yeah.
then now you can watch them all day long on the Instagrams and the Facebooks
Yeah.
and all those,
Mhm.
which is cool though too, because like as you get older, like I don't go to shows anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd much rather just sit in my living room and watch them.
Right.
Did you ever have a band? I know that was one
Yeah.
question. I don't think I've ever asked you that ever in our entire friendship. And so when I was going through like, what are me and Jared going to talk about? Because I know quite a bit about you, but I was like,
Mhm.
what would be really interesting for someone who listened, like even in the audio world, like someone potentially is going to be out here like, ooh, let me hear what Jared talks about consoles. We're not talking about consoles, so you can, if that's what you came here for, you can exit the show. But I did really think about it, and I was like, man, I know he's really musically talented. So I wonder if he's ever been in like his own band.
Yeah.
Do you were?
It
No way.
It wasn't great, but yeah.
Well,
It was high school.
I'm not going to say clearly
Yeah.
because you're doing the sound, but
Right.
but there is a.
Yeah.
But you still had. But that's the thing. You can have fun having a band
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Was it in a garage?
Yeah, we
'Cause
did
you guys
play
would practice
Yeah.
and-
Yeah. So it was 3 or 4 friends of mine in high school. It was a few variations of a couple kids that we get together and play. And I think we did maybe one show, like
Yeah.
a show, and that was probably about it. We just mostly hung out and just played and stuff. But
Tuba?
no tuba. It
What-
was. I
what-
had some friends that had ska bands though that were awesome back in the day. and
Oh,
so
yeah.
I loved going to that, but I never did it.
You know how some people always, it was like either ska or punk or whatever. I always enjoyed both.
Yeah,
I was like a real big Fish fan,
hmm
a Less Than Jake fan,
hmm
but then also I loved like Rancid and
Yep.
Operation Ivy and all
Mhm.
those other ones. So there was something about those horns in a band that you're
Yeah.
just like, yeah, that's kind of
It's
cool.
cool. Yeah.
I didn't
Yep.
like to dance. I didn't like to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that little skip punk
What do
rock.
they call it? Skanking.
Skanking. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that.
Yeah.
What'd you play in the band?
Bass.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um,
That was.
Did you sing?
I think I might have a little bit, but not like lead.
Because it wasn't
Yeah.
screaming back then, so you couldn't have.
There was some, but yeah. No, I played bass. Yeah, and that was about it. So
Did you have long hair? Bang your head? That's
A little
amazing. I need to see some of these pictures.
yeah,
Because I really, really was like, dang, man, I need to know some, like, not dirt, but I wanted to know some, like, deeper stuff. And I was like, I just feel like you had a band and you never told me.
yeah.
What was the name of it?
It was called Unchained.
Yeah.
That was the first time. And then there was another variation with some of the same people I think it was called Turn.
Okay.
Spelled with an E because you had to be cool and different, So like TER. I don't know why. Yeah.
Do you ever talk to those guys?
Yeah, some.
Nice.
One of them lives here. He also kind of worked in music for a while, and now he's doing some other stuff. But,
Okay.
So he lives out here, and then I try to keep in touch with those same dudes.
Ever talk about a reunion tour?
No, I don't think so.
I think
we could go back and do our one show again.
I think you should have one show. Yeah, like go to Exit In and play one show, one last night. I would come.
Nobody would come.
I would. I'd bring my little one. My BK would come. Yep. We'd be in the front row. I never was in a band. I always wanted to be in the band, but I didn't want to put in the work.
Yeah.
I was too lazy. But there is something that very cool about, I think, what's different now from music, in my opinion, to like when we were growing up, and kind of like even before that, is there was like this really big thing of like no Pro Tools, and there wasn't a lot of like production to it. And I like remember the band No Effects.
Mm-hmm.
There was something about them. I remember the first time hearing that term, I was like, I don't really get it. But then I got it. I was like, oh yeah, they're just kind of raw and gritty, and there's something very attractive about that. And to me nowadays, it's hard to really latch onto one band because they kind of all sound the same in a way. And so I think that maybe that's why punk rock to me, they all sounded the same, but they all kind of had their own gritty, different tones.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There was something very attractive about it growing up.
Definitely.
And they were like the rowdy kids that I always wanted to be.
Yeah.
Were you a pretty good kid growing up?
I was, yeah.
So you
Even
were like
for being a pastor's kid, I was not like the typical pastor's kid that would go completely wild.
Yeah.
I was pretty.
I think when when you told me that your dad was a pastor, I was like, oh wow. And then I met him. I was like, oh yeah, no, I can see that he's such a gentle, sweet man that I was like, okay. Now, would you have to play in the band at church on Sundays?
Yeah. So that was some of it too. So I was playing in high school, like band and jazz band, and doing our own thing, and then also on Sunday mornings sometimes as well. And then that's kind of how I ended up behind the soundboard a lot too. It's just like I was always there, and so I just kind of.
Looking back on it now, every time I stood behind you, you always had a very musical side to explaining sound to people, which I thought was very cool because a lot of guys are numbers, and you were very actually like the musical side to it. You know, and it always blew my mind because when we'd be in rehearsals, when you would give feedback, it would be like, well, you're flat, or you're not at this A, you're at this A. And I was always so like, wow, I don't hear that. I hear a number, and you were hearing a really cool frequency.
I think that's one thing I've always said about myself is that I'm not the techiest guy. I've figured out enough to like get by, but I started as a musician first, and I think that's helped me a lot as a mixer.
That's awesome.
I guess.
Do you like? I know this sounds weird, but like, can you almost see the arrangement as you mix, as opposed to like, oh, I need to turn this vocal 3 dB down? Can you just see kind of like where they sit like musically? In a way, does that?
I don't know about visually seeing it, but I guess it's in my head of like, well, especially mixing for one artist for so long, like some of the vocal blend is like I can do it in my sleep because I'm so like where my hands go on the console, it's like the same every night. So
that's cool. I just it's all starting to come together now because for years I sat there and I'd be like, I don't know how he hears that. But going back to that musical stuff, I mean, you had 3 different things that you had in your mind growing up. Like you would play in your band, and then you'd play in high school, and then you would go to church on Sundays and play. And that's not
all different types of
different types, all different. I mean, and then you have to memorize. It's not like you're I guess, can you read sheet music too?
I used to be able to.
Wow.
Because of the high school stuff. So bass clef, only bass clef. I never learned treble clef.
Is that that's the
one that looks like a C with the two dots?
Yeah.
So I used to be able to do that. I could still do it, but it would be like 1, 2, 3. How many lines? So I used to be able to sight read, like just like look at a sheet and play it.
That's pretty cool.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
It's been too long. But I've always had a decent ear at hearing. I would call it like changes or intervals, so I could kind of hear where a chord progression is going and kind of play by ear in that way. So that's what I've always kind of done.
That's cool. Yeah, there's like old stories of like, monitor guys that had artists that they didn't know how to give proper feedback of like certain, whatever frequencies and stuff like that. So they would like, it sounds like more like this. Sounds like a chicken.
Yeah.
It sounds like a purple chicken walking through my ears. I'm like, what? What's a purple chicken? And music, or people that are very musical, just have that artsy kind of flavor to them. So, they see things and they hear things different. And so, yeah, to me, sitting behind you at the console, you always just did it differently. And I always commended you for that, because it was like, wow, like every other person that I tended to sit behind just spoke of it in a mathematical sense.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
I try to walk the line between both, because so I started as a musician, and I still play a little bit, but not at all professionally or anything. And so now professionally being on the tech side of things, I try to be able to speak both languages a little bit. And I think with FGL specifically, the band leader that was there for a long time and really all of them, like band guys, were really trusting in my opinion out front, which I thought was really cool, because we're all working together for the same goal.
Yeah.
And so if I'm hearing something that they're not necessarily hearing it in their ears because they're listening to their part or whatever, where it's all coming together, they took my opinion pretty highly, which I always appreciated. So
cool. I can agree with that, because there's just something to be said about working in cohesion like that, and to know how to go, not only to tell me how to like, this doesn't feel like this, and then turn around and tell the band guys something in a completely different language. I always thought it was awesome. So that makes sense though to me now. Again, like I was saying, looking back on all the times, like I'd hear you make comments like, "Yeah, I played bass in the church band." I was like, "Huh, interesting." Do your little ones? Do they play instruments?
Yep. So the oldest one does for sure. Noah.
Okay.
He's playing drums. And he definitely has a natural knack for it, because I've showed him a little bit, but there's some of that you have to just kind of...
That's right. You do play the drums too.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wouldn't tell everybody that, but I guess I am now.
You can keep a beat.
Yeah. Like I can fake it all right, I guess. But so I showed him some, and some of it is just, you got to kind of figure it out. And so he was just going to town, and he would start listening to music he likes listening to and try to play along to it. And then one day it kind of clicked where he could do his feet different than his hands, and it was just like,
bam.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
that is incredible to me that people can figure that out,
Yeah.
because I can get it for about 10 seconds,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden each part of my body's making the exact same movement.
Yep.
I'm like, well, there went that went.
Yep.
Yeah. I worked for a guy in Orlando forever, and he was always good about keeping the beat, and he was always like, one time he asked me, like, he's like, find the beat, and I was like, no, there's no way. And he's like, it's not that hard. And I did, but the way I did it was completely different. I was like, well, how'd you ever learn? He's like, I would play the drums on my steering wheel.
Yeah.
And I was like, I tried it one day. I ended up like halfway down the, like in the opposite direction. Like, like my hand went this way, my feet were touching brakes and gas. And I was like, it doesn't work. So I will say that's awesome that your little guy can do that, because there's just something about the drums that I've just never understood.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm impressed with him. Like he's figuring it out.
Is it
he's left-handed.
Okay, I was gonna say, is it easier to be a drummer as a left-handy?
So I kind of told him this, but like, because usually you cross hands when you're playing this way, but left-handed, he's playing open-handed. So he's got the hi-hat over here, and then he's playing snare with his right hand.
Ah, okay.
So what he has to learn still that he hasn't quite figured out is switching when you go to this side and staying open.
Ah.
Because he wants to cross and go like this, which doesn't really work. But at the same time, I'm just going to let him figure it out. So
I think that in all of that stuff, I mean, you could probably line up 100 of the best drummers and look at them, and they all have a different technique.
Yeah, true.
Like I can picture like Danny Carey and some of these like Travis Barkers, and then you can look at their kits and like, you remember Garrett from Carrie Underwood?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Amazing drummer.
Yeah.
Have you ever, and his drum kit, I've never seen someone set up a drum kit like that.
Yeah.
And he killed it every night, and it just sounded huge. And I don't even think he used the cymbal tighteners.
Oh, really? He would just set them on there?
He would just set them on there, and they would flop and stuff. And it just blew my mind, but it sounded great.
Yeah.
It almost sounded so rock and roll that it fit with country. I don't know. It was something really cool about it. So yeah, like I think that's awesome that your little dude is. What about your little dude? Is he showing any interest yet?
He bangs around the drums too, but I don't know that he's gonna. I don't know that he'll
like
click to it. But yeah. We'll see. He's still pretty young. He's only 6. So.
Yeah, I think that there's a weird spot where I think like keyboards and stuff like that, like they make the tones and kids are like, all right, that's cool, but to really get him going. I don't know. Like, I've never seen a kid in my obviously like YouTube where they're just like Beethovens and stuff like that.
Right.
But I mean, kids are kids. They're gonna want to go outside and then eventually bang on drums.
Yep.
And start a band. What music do they listen to? Anything that you like?
Well, yeah. So Noah does listen to some like metal.
Does he really?
Yeah, which is fun. Like Wage and A Day to Remember a little bit.
No way. That's amazing. Because like you just said like, well, yeah, he started listening to music. I mean, I'm like thinking, well, what does a little kid listen to?
Yeah. So he definitely likes whatever we kind of like. So.
Oh, okay.
So definitely some of that, and then he's a big FGL fan because of all the years of doing shows. So
all the years.
So he listens to a lot of their music.
When we first met, you only had the little dude.
Yeah.
Noah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure I don't even know if he was walking at that time, or maybe he like stumbled in barely when we first met.
He might have been barely walking because I think it was 2013. So yeah, he was about a year old.
That's crazy. So, I remember. I remember walking into that, like, not to kind of go on a side tangent here, but I remember our first rehearsal and being like, whoa, I don't know if I fit in here because everyone here is so nice. And like, I don't think I've heard an F-bomb yet. And now there's kids here. I was like, what? I think I'm on the wrong tour and I don't know if I'm going to fit in here. It took me a while to get my bearings, but I remember meeting Noah at a very young age, and it's been cool to watch him go from a toddler to, I mean, I haven't seen him play the drums, but that's awesome that he's getting up there.
I'll show you some videos. He's
awesome. Good. So he listens to A Day to Remember, Wage War?
Yeah.
Wow. Have you taken him to a show yet besides FGL?
No, not yet. No.
Has he been
he hasn't really asked. No, he hasn't really asked about it. He doesn't. It's kind of funny that he plays drums, but he doesn't love loud.
Okay.
But I think he would enjoy it still with headphones or whatever.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Take him to his first little punk rock show or something. That's one thing that I look forward to is taking my little dude eventually to like his first concert because I can remember mine.
Yep.
Do you remember yours?
I do.
What was it?
Yeah. So it was a Christian band called Jeff Moore in the Distance.
Never heard of them.
I know. They were, I think they were popular like in the 90s. And I don't remember anything about the show other than I do remember how loud it was and like the feel of, oh, this is a live concert experience. And I remember having a thought like, I want to be a part of this.
Oh, cool.
So I don't remember, like, they probably weren't good. I don't really know. I don't remember their music at all. I wasn't a fan. I don't think it was just like they were doing a show.
They were doing something.
So we went to the show. And
well, and like in the Christian world, a lot of Christian artists go to churches and play, right?
Yeah, it was at a church, yeah.
So, I think it is a little bit different of an atmosphere than what most people are used to, like thinking like, oh, I'm going to go see whatever, the Rolling Stones at a stadium. It's more like, oh, so-and-so is playing my church on Saturday night, so I'm going to go to the show, and then Sunday I'll play in the church band. Yeah. That's awesome. And that was your first kind of like feeling into, I want to be a part of whatever that is.
Yeah, this live
How old were you?
Thing.
Did you say?
I was probably 12.
12? Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I was 11 the first time I saw a show, and mine was a little different. I was like, whoa, who are those tattooed guys down there? And I want to
be like
have long hair and tattoos, and that guy's just standing on the side of the stage smoking cigarettes.
Yep.
That looks amazing. I don't know what he does, but I'm going to be there. To me, looking at like how shows happen, it's all a building process, and you're clearly a very smart person when it comes to building stuff. So did you always have music and other crafts? Because like looking at your woodworking abilities, you said at a young age that you kind of enjoyed that. So when did that start for you?
So my grandpa was always kind of around a lot, and he built a lot of things. And so I think watching him when I was young, he built a lot of like furniture, and like I've got a couple pieces of furniture that he built for us. And like toys and things like that. But then he also did home remodeling, like for us. Like I remember him coming to our house, and we had like a garage that they turned into a bedroom and a living room.
Oh, wow.
So I remember being around and just watching a lot.
Cool.
And being interested in that. And then
did he have a shop? Or I'm assuming that he just did it.
He just did it
out of his garage.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. They lived in Nebraska, so like way out west, and so they would come to our house in Illinois in the fall because he would come and work the harvest when it was like harvest season.
Mm-hmm.
He'd come and work for some farmer for a couple months and just hang out, and then they would do projects on the house and stuff like that.
How old were you around then?
I mean, when I was real young.
Young.
Yeah, like I don't know, 7 or 8, something like that.
That's
like just watching. I was probably 9 or 10 when they did that, the remodeling in our house. And I remember that a lot. And then like in high school, I've always had jobs. So I've like always worked various things. But right out of high school, I started working for a welder. So I did some like welder's assistant type stuff. And then worked for a landscaper. And that was one of the favorite jobs I've ever had still. It was awesome. It was just me and the owner. And which is also when I started listening to country music a little bit.
Really?
And then like the idea of moving to Nashville, that all kind of happened around the same time.
Interesting.
Because I felt like it was the only thing decent on the radio to listen to. I was driving around this landscaping truck. And
at the time, I mean, that was like a lot of Alan and Tim. And
I remembered it was Jason Aldean's first Hicktown. That song Hicktown, like that was when it had just come out. And I remember listening to it and be like, well, this is not like old country. This is kind of fun. Like I could listen to this, I guess.
That it's crazy to think that, you know, because I hear Jason Aldean and I still think of him as a young artist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the realm of artists that are still touring. You know, like Tim McGraw's out there, and Tim has been with
long time.
I mean, I was young when I saw Tim and Faith, or I was supposed to, and the wind picked up and they had to cancel the show. But man, that was like 20 freaking years ago. It's like whoa. Yeah. And so like to think that Jason Aldean, like back in the day, like I mean he's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, true.
So it's impressive. That's cool though. So you're driving around, listening to country music, working were you doing full on landscaping or were you?
No, we did like hardscapes. We would build like retaining walls and water features and stuff like that. And
oh wow! Patios, so you learned how to do like cement.
Well, it was not so much cement. It was like where you take that like paver, crushed limestone stuff and get a nice base. And so I remember, like driving bobcats and excavating stuff. And then I had a bobcat accident one time. It wasn't really an accident, but we were at a hospital.
OSHA, if you're listening, go ahead and just.
It's fine. The guy that I worked for sadly has passed on since. He was one of the best dudes. And but anyway, so he. I was having to put some like pea gravel over a fence with a bobcat, so I had to like take this and pop up on a curb, and then like reach over this fence and dump this gravel, and just do that over and over again.
Yeah.
So I was doing it; it was fine. And then one of the times I backed up too soon with the bucket still down and just ripped a whole panel of fence down. Whoops.
Oops. Yeah, and anybody that doesn't know what a bobcat is, it's not the
not
four-legged. Go look it up. They're pretty fun to drive.
They are. Yeah.
What is it? There's basically 2 pedals and 2 arm switches.
There's 2 different. Some of them have all joysticks where you just go back and forth, and then your buckets are this way. But the one I was doing was the bucket with your feet, and so one foot is up and down, and one foot is the bucket this way. So
fun times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I mean. I never knew that about you. That's pretty cool. So that's
great.
Where you kind of started this whole building experience.
And then I also worked after that. I had a job for a while doing framing, which is like residential framing, building houses. And so that was a lot of
crazy.
Where I learned a lot of like carpentry, I guess, from that. So,
and every time I think about woodworking, the first thing that comes to mind is measure twice, cut once.
Yep. Yeah.
Because I have recently found patience in my life, but it takes a lot of patience to be a woodworker because you have to really look at stuff and kind of think your way through it before you just start cutting stuff and gluing it and drilling it. And there's a big process to that. And so when you started building these decks, I was like, the first one you sent me, I can't remember. It wasn't the big one.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But it was a tall thing. And I'm looking at this going, wow. You built that, just you. And you're like, oh, my phone just fell. I was like, wow, that is very, very impressive because there's just so many little angles to it. And so then I started thinking about it. I'm like, wow, you know what? That makes sense because you really do have that mind that takes you to that extra little spot. Because sitting behind you for so many years, I saw your mix evolve. Not because like you were forced to, but because I think you just as a person want to do good, and so
continue to improve. And
so like looking at your deck building, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But it didn't because I was like, where the hell did he learn how to do this? And I thought he played like bass in a church. And then slowly over time, I've asked like little questions, but it was really important for me to do this because I did think there was like a lot of cool things that people just don't know about you in general. And in the music industry, we still have a lot of listeners that, tour and stuff. And I think that goes for a lot of these guys that sit behind these desks or play in these bands and do all this stuff, is that there's so much more to them that makes them exactly who they are, which in my opinion is really cool. So that's awesome that you did all that.
It was fun, man. It was a cool challenge. I had to do a lot of research, with the deck specifically, because a lot of rules and things of building guidelines that you got to follow.
True.
So that was I'd done this before, but maybe even the first deck I built, I did it for a friend and did it at cost, and basically just to see if I could do it efficiently enough to operate as a business, and not make 17 trips to Home Depot and So it worked out really well. And then I did a fence for a friend the same way, and just kind of said, hey, if you guys are happy with this and somebody asks you where you got it done, feel free to pass my name on. Yeah. And then it just started.
That fence was nice. I do remember that. I think you had Noah out there, right?
He came out to a lot. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, I need to just rewind just a touch. You said the guy that you worked with, my condolences that he passed away. Yeah. But do you have one moment? I know the fence moment's big, but do you have one moment where you always knew that you would continue to do and build, like even if it was just on your house?
I guess not a specific moment. No, I don't know. But I've just always been interested in that stuff. I think doing something with your hands. Yeah. And especially when I was doing framing, when you build a structure that then you use immediately or stand on immediately, and you're using something you just wasn't there a minute ago, and then you just built it, and now it's like, I like that a lot. Like with decks especially. That's cool. You're building a structure, and then you start putting your tools on it, you put materials on it, and then you stand on it, and then it's something you're using that wasn't there that's now. I think that's cool.
That is pretty cool. It's almost like a show. Watching a show like get put together, you're like, we walked into this empty arena. There's nothing here, and all these carpenters came and built this, and then these like
hung these speakers
up, and you've actually had a chance recently to, speaking of hanging speakers, you switched roles for a hot minute. Yeah, you had a chance recently to go out as a system engineer, which I was for you for years, and they're the people, if you're listening, they're the guys that tune the speakers, or they hang the speakers and make sure they do all the right calculations for each room, and it's a pretty daunting task. And
it was.
So did you have fun building a show in that regard?
Yeah, it was definitely out of my comfort zone. Well, because a big challenge.
I asked that because for years you just let me. Yeah. You let me in a very nice way do whatever I wanted. Like if I was like, "Hey, let's try this," you'd be like, "All right, as long as it works." And most of the time it works. So I kind of got away with murder for a long time. I was like, "Whoo, that's dodge that bullet there." But okay, so back to what I was asking. Like, did you enjoy building a show?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've always, like back in the day when I would help fly PA a little bit, I always enjoyed the physical flying of a PA. Like that's fun. Doing the rigging and running motors and all that stuff. Some of the ins and outs and the little technical stuff, I've got lots to learn for sure. So that was like, we did fine. I did fine. Like it worked out, and the front of house guy was happy, and I did my best to make sure. I think that was more of it was that he knew that I really cared that it was going to be the best that it could be for him. But if I met another system engineer that's been doing it a long time, they'd probably be like, "What are you doing?" So
I think in the touring world. And if I could have a million people disagree with me, but that they're all liars, because in the touring world, it does not matter at wherever level you are, someone somewhere is gonna say, "I can do it better." Yeah, and I'm sure most industries are like that, but there's in the touring world, it is cutthroat. Yeah. Like if someone walks by and sees your cable like 1 inch different, they're like, "Really? Yeah, that's how you're gonna hang this rig? That's disgusting." Yep.
So I think I sent you some pictures of some of the first PAs that I flew, being like, "Don't pay no attention to the cable path over here."
But all that stuff comes in time, and I think it really does boil down to how like you've always had a really good work ethic, and so I can see why that front house engineer was like, "Yeah, just do a good job, whatever." I mean, nothing's perfect. No room is perfect.
Right.
You know, you would have to do, especially in like a sense, like, you know, you can build a 99% perfect deck, you know, but there's probably one or two little corners. But safety wise, you can build a safe deck.
Yeah.
Same with like a PA. It's like you can hang a rig 100% safe, but the room will never be perfect. It'll never treat you good. You know, even if you squeezed all the bodies in the world in there and made it the right temperature, audio's audio. It's gonna bounce around places and stuff like that. And so
that in another way is it's the same reason I love live music. Is that I've never been a fan of the studio just because it's too sterile. It's like too much of the same exact perfect scenario every time. And I like that it's a different challenge every day.
It is. You made a really cool comment about when you were building your first fence and your first deck, how you didn't want to make a bunch of runs back and forth to like a Home Depot or whatever. That's a real thing though in life, is like little details like that I think truly set people apart, because like in the touring world we came from, once we left, it's not like well, sure, you could get something overnighted, but sometimes you couldn't. You know, maybe it was a Sunday afternoon and in what is like Cabbage, Canada.
Right.
Or Cadott. What isn't there a place
Wisconsin?
Called Wisconsin. Yeah. You're up there. You're just like out in the middle of nowhere. There's no way you're getting something delivered by FedEx. And so I think that was a really cool thing for you to think about, putting a business together, because that's what matters to people. They don't want to see you come to their house to build a deck and then you're like, hey, I got to run back to Home Depot again. They're like, what's this guy doing? Buying burritos?
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
It was fun, man. I was gonna say one of the biggest things with that world is just showing up. There's so many contractors that are just like, they'll tell you one thing and then you never hear from them again. So like, I feel like I beat. Not that I was like trying to beat out other competition. I didn't really have to. Like, there's plenty of work.
Yeah.
But having clients be happy was just like showing up when I said I was going to, and if I couldn't, I would tell them or whatever. And if there's an issue, I'd tell them whatever. So I only had maybe one client over the year that I did it for a year that wasn't thrilled with something, but I went back 3 times and whatever it was, fixed what it was, and he was happy by the end. So it's part of it.
That's really cool, dude. I just have to commend you again for taking the time to go through something like that. And then, you know, now that the country's open back up, you're back out, you know, like you have a couple things lined up, and, you know, that's to be chatted about later on a different show. But looking back on what you've done so far, one of the questions I wanted to ask is, because a lot of questions I always get, like, since I toured so much, was what was your favorite, or what was this, or what, you know, so, you know, I could ask you what your favorite venue is or what your favorite show was ever, but you've worked for one artist for a long time. And so what I would rather ask is, what do you think as like a front of house engineer or even a business owner, what do you think like one of your, or 2 of your biggest accomplishments on either side were, you know?
Yeah. So I think, just being recognized like as a peer in the business, just like breaking into that circle, because this is something I wanted to do for a long time. I think once we didn't really talk about it. Once I moved to Nashville, I was doing various things while working a full-time job to try to find that opportunity. Yeah. And so to finally get an opportunity and then stick with them and them stick with me for all these years and continue to improve and get better, but then to just be part of the business, it was like, that's, to me, it was huge. And that's what I wanted to be, is in the circle, you know, like in the business. So specific accomplishments, I mean, like getting to mix at Red Rocks and Madison Square Garden and doing shows in Europe and Australia, like that was awesome. So, but
Australia is a pretty cool spot.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Do you remember? Did you guys fly directly there, or did you guys?
Well, from LA.
From LA, yeah. Okay. So when you landed, did you guys have a chance to go around? Because country, I know they're known for doing coming in, doing as many shows as they can in a row and getting back out. Mainly because a lot of them have families and they just want to go home. But did you guys get to spend some time down there?
A little bit, yeah. The second time we did Australia, we had maybe like a day and a half off of the 10. So it was like it was just like show.
Yeah.
I think it was the first time we went. We landed in the morning over there and had all day, and we had to stay up because of the jet lag. You got to stay up, so we just went.
Just went and had some fun.
Yeah.
That's cool. I do remember doing Madison Square Garden with you. That was a fun one.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah, I've played it, I think 10 times in my career, and not physically played it, but I just think that is one of those iconic ones.
Yeah.
Even if you have a good or a bad show, just being in that building, you're like, wow, there's been a lot of like cool stuff, and I do remember that. Did we do it twice or once?
I've only done it once.
Okay. So I was thinking, I think maybe with Carrie I did it twice.
Yeah.
But that's cool, man.
Yeah.
And now with the business.
Yeah.
What part of that stands out like in your biggest, like if your son came to you, because I think, your kids look up to you.
Yeah.
I think that's just like what, as a father, you have little ones and they're like, oh wow, dad's doing this, dad's doing that. Is there something that you could tell him, like, he's like, Dad, I want to do what you do, or like I want to start a business because I saw you do that and that's really cool. Is there like a bit of advice that you could be like, you know what, this is like an accomplishment to me that I did that stood at the highest?
Well, I think work ethic, just like
showing up,
showing up, and then working hard all day, and not like. I would know it would come out. I would kind of ride him a little bit. Like, you didn't come out here to sit around. If you're gonna be out here, we're gonna work. We're gonna and work all day. And he did. There was a couple days where he was out, and it was just probably child labor or something. But he was out there.
He's yours.
That's true. That's different. Okay. I wasn't forcing him. But there was a couple days where he worked like 8 hours, like full day.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a big accomplishment, though, as I think of as a parent and a business owner, is to bring a kid in and let them understand the business. So that's a good one.
And just the physical aspect of working with your hands and being outside in the heat or the rain or whatever, and just doing it.
I saw it. I think either you sent me a photo or I saw it online, but he's like drilling. Like he had his little tool belt on and everything.
He loves it. So when we would do fences, like just picket, privacy fences, I would do like the top and bottom screw, and then he would go back behind me and hit every second screw.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I would leave him. He would do thousands of them. I mean,
that's awesome.
It was legitimate, real help.
That's a pretty cool accomplishment. Or I have to say, that's if accomplishment's not the world, that's a really cool thing to have the ability to do, is have your son work next to you.
Absolutely.
And I mean, he's not only seen you work in that aspect, he's seen you at all the shows and stuff. And I mean, he's been out to a bunch. Has Jonah's been out to a couple, right?
He's never actually been to a show.
Has he really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I couldn't remember if
didn't
he
work out like schedule wise or whatever.
Yeah, I was like, I was trying to picture, because so many times I've met so many of your family members at so many different shows. I'm like, I don't know if I remembered that one.
Nope, he's never been.
Wow. It'll happen.
It will. Yeah.
Speaking of building, you built me an awesome coffee. And you were like, I don't know if you're going to like this. It's just black coffee. And I was like, let's do it. This is what you drink. And I wanted to commend you on a nice little coffee here. Right. And I don't do hot drinks, so I do thank you for putting ice cubes in it.
No worries. It's pretty good.
And what did you call it?
So this is can I do a plug?
Yeah.
So a friend of mine, another audio guy named Gene Kim, has a little side hustle called Crew Brew. So he brews his own beans, and he has like subscription based and this type of stuff, or you can just buy stuff. So these are from him. These are those beans. And this is like with an AeroPress, which is like a travel French press sort of thing. Sounds real snobby.
Grind?
So I grind the beans, and put it in this little thing, put the water in there, and let it sit for a minute, and you push it down through a filter. So a lot of like coffee snobs already know all this stuff, but I'm not really, I don't measure anything. Like I don't have a scale and all that stuff, but
toss it in.
Yeah.
I will say that I've, over the years of touring, I've met more coffee snobs in my life, and I'm just not a coffee drinker. I don't get it, but this does taste really good, I will say. And I am one of those, like, I drink Coors Light.
Yeah. Hey, me too.
I'm not like all into name brand stuff, but I will say this kind of reminds me of a Dunkin' in a way. Like it has a little nice, like just a punch to it. Mm-hmm. And when I do drink coffee, I don't put anything in it.
Nice.
So
me neither.
We make cold. My wife makes me cold brew at home.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's like the simplest thing. Like she grinds them and then throws water, and then it just sits overnight.
Nice.
Next thing we know, we wake up.
That's cool.
Energy.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, I'll tag him up and stuff. And I want to ask one specific question.
All right.
And this one has always kind of been interesting to me because we've been through so much as a front of house duo. and we've seen a lot. You've seen me grow. I've seen you grow. You've had kids. I have a kid now.
Yep.
What's one memory or one thing that stands out the most to you of like our relationship? And I've never asked anyone this, and it's not because I want you to like toot my horn.
Yeah.
I have so many cool experiences with you in different ways than I've had with other people in life, because when we first met, I wasn't sure how you took me because I was pretty rowdy, and I didn't think that we were going to become as close of friends as we have.
Yeah.
And over the years, we've become very close friends, and I thank you for our friendship, for one. But I thank you for giving me a chance to be your front of house guy for so long. And you always had my back on so many things. And I really have to say thank you for that, because I feel like I got put in that slot at the time to fill a place until you guys broke and made it big, and then they could put someone better. And you always kept me around. And I commend you for that, because you always asked my company at the time for me. And so I want to ask, in a way, like, what was one of your favorite memories of all the different times?
So there's a lot of memories for sure. I remember when I first met you, though. I think I knew right away, like, this. I love this guy, no matter what. And I remember saying that, like, thinking that, like, doesn't matter. I love this guy. So, I don't know. We had a lot of fun memories for sure.
Yeah.
So a fun memory that I'll always remember was we were doing a show it was called the Nokia Theater at the time. It was a walk away, so like we weren't loading out, and so we'd first finish the show.
And that's in downtown LA
yeah.
in that little district.
Yeah, so right next to the Staples Center.
Mm-hmm.
And so Miley Cyrus was next door playing the Jingle Balls tour or whatever. Yeah. And you were like, all right, last song's done. I'm going to shut down the console. You go get 2 beers, meet me back here. All right. So I went and did it, came back. Stuff was shut down. The crowd's leaving, and we would like get in with the crowd, open beers out the front door of the venue. And security guards were like, "You can't." And we're like, "Oh, that's fine." And then just went right through. So we're out on like the walkway street thing, and we go right out of the venue, and then take a left behind it used to be called the Nokia Theater. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it's called now, but
yeah.
And it was technically like a security area, so it was another security guard, and we were just like flashing badges. Just walked behind.
We had our radios on too, right?
Yes, that's right. So walked to the loading dock of the Staples Center. Your friend met us with some passes. We went down the loading dock, down the arena floor.
We were trying to tell the guy, like, we don't have that much more time. We got to, I remember that specifically, and she's at the bottom, like, waving us down, and they wouldn't let us. And so I'm, like, waving her up, and so we, like, eventually she got to the top. Because if you can picture the Staples Center, there's a giant ramp at the top, and the security guards make you damn near take your clothes off to get in.
So open beers down the street, into Staples Center, through the dock, down the arena floor to front of house. We watched the last song, and it was awesome. Like that was like the start of the night or something like that.
Oh yeah, because we had a walk away into. We played that the next day, and I think our hotel was just like right across the street from the Staples Center too. So then after that, we went across the street and just had a couple adult beverages.
But that was a really fun memory of just like, let's go. It's going to be fun.
That was fun.
So that's something I've always appreciated you. And my wife has said this about you as well, is this your willingness to be down for a party. Like whoever's around, doesn't matter. Like we're going to have fun. We're going to have a good time.
No, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So that's one memory that stands out for sure. There's other like fun ones like that. But I was trying to think of there was a day I remember where I could visibly see you were like struggling, and it was when you, like, if I remember right, like decided I'm gonna commit to your wife and change a lot of things in your life. And I remember being so proud of you.
Well, cheers. I remember I came to you that day because I was emotionally tore up because I thought that I had just failed everybody in my life. I was like, oh my gosh. I really have been lying to everyone. I was like, oh my gosh. And I didn't think about it at the time. Like, but I had been lying to you for years about me as a person. And it was really hard for me. I remember having you come out there and talk to me at front house. And it was so emotional for me because it's hard to let someone down, especially a friend, and then, to let my wife down and all these people. It was like, and actually I wasn't married yet at the time. And it was crazy because, you know, she was like, all right, well, you know, here's your chance. And I remember I was like, okay, I've had a lot of chances in life and I've only messed them all up always. And I remember you were such a good friend to me that day. You like gave me a big hug. You told me you loved me. And, you know, one of the special things that came out of that was, I told you that I was like, you know, I'm curious about reading the Bible. And, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm curious because everybody talks about so many things about it. And I kind of want to know. And, I still read the Bible you gave me. And you were the first person to ever, well, maybe my grandma gave me a Bible and who knows where that is.
Yeah.
But you gave me a Bible and I read it every day, or I try to read it every day, I should say. So thank you for that. That means a lot to me because you really did impact my life. Watching you be a father, you were always a very big inspiration to me. So, you know,
Thanks.
cheers, man. That's, you know, I have to say that's, I've never really brought that up on the show, and not because I didn't want to talk about it, but that day was a really hard day.
Yeah.
Because I honestly thought, I was like, well, you know what, maybe like I just need to quit touring because I'm treating touring as like a party and not a job, which was.
I mean, that's part of touring. So.
Well, that was how I only wanted to treat touring because like you made a comment earlier, like I learned just enough to get by doing like, you know, like when it came to, was it, I can't remember the exact context it was in earlier now, but when you said it, I was like, yeah, that's exactly how I always thought of like touring. Like, oh, I'll just do enough just to get me on the bus and I'll keep learning. And then like, so that's awesome, man. You know, there's one emotional thing that always comes up in my mind, and I'll always remember it because I always looked up to you in so many ways, not only being a father, but when I was thinking about this question, I was like, you know, there's one memory that always stands out, and I have this photo of you playing a piano in the middle of a forest.
Yep.
And it's so cool because there's like one light, and then there's this random piano, and it said like "live and love" or something on the piano. Yep. And you were gonna go have your baby. I think you were gonna go have Jonah.
That's when that was.
Yeah, I want to say that was it. So, or you were gonna go do something. You had to come home for like a week or something.
No, that's probably what it was.
2 weeks maybe. I think I did 2 weeks of mixing for you.
Okay.
And it was such an honor for me because I knew that you had been with these guys for so long, and it was one of those things where I was like, well, I don't want to fail them. And you had so many moves, like you said, like you had it down, your ears were pat, everything was good about your mix. And I'd watched you for like, I think the weekend before. I'd learned a bunch of stuff. You'd show me a bunch of notes. And then we'd come back out the next weekend, and we were playing a festival in
Ontario.
Yeah, Ontario. Was it Ontario?
Wait, you're talking about where the piano was?
Yeah.
That was Boots and Hearts. In Canada.
And it was my first night mixing, and we were just about to go on. I think we finished line check. And there was a guy that magically appeared on the freaking roof.
Yeah.
And we all were like, wait, what? And that guy was about to commit suicide.
Yeah,
and
it was weird.
We spent like I remember you and me, it was one of those moments because I was already nervous as it was. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly here's this guy that's about to jump off a roof in front of 80,000 people. Mm-hmm. And it was something that stuck out to me. But I remember you and me, like, we didn't want to be a part of it. We like, you know, so many people were like yelling like jump, and so many people were just being complete jerks. Yeah. And you and me walked to the back of the tent and just looked out the back and tried to be as positive as we could. And that was always a very special moment to me because I saw like a really cool, compassionate side to you that you know, when a lot of people want to see bad things in the world, you were the one guy that always wanted to see good in the world. And I think that there's something special. And you always saw good in me, which was incredible. And I think that you bringing up that memory of me coming to you, I think it was Arizona, if I remember correctly, at the Action or
Action,
whatever those we've done every amphitheater under the sun 1,000 times. But yeah, you and me sat there at the back of that tent, and then that night after I mixed, I remember it didn't really matter about the mix. I just remember we went and grabbed some beers, and we were just friends in the forest. And I remember you played me the piano. I think I played you like one song, and you were like, I didn't know you knew the one song. Thanks, Phil. And then you sat there and played some pretty awesome stuff that night. And I'll always remember that as just like a side to you that if more people had that, society would be there'd be so much more love in society if people showed a little more compassion. But
thanks, man.
that was one of my fondest memories of you. So cheers, dude.
Cheers. That was a good one. I remember that.
That was a wild one. I found pictures of that not too long ago.
Crazy.
And it was hard for me to look at those pictures because I was like, man, that poor guy, we knew what he was going through, and I'm not going to get onto his show because it's just, that's his private business. But wow, I mean, that was a hard night. But yeah, the things that you see on tour sometimes are just so out there.
Yeah.
And then you get to get in a bus, erase it, go to bed, wake up the next morning and try to do it again. And there's been, obviously some crazy stuff on tour, but you still loving it?
I do. Yeah. I don't want to be done yet.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't know what the end looks like for me in this business, but I want to keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. You enjoying it?
I am.
Loving the, is it the building side in you?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe some. And then just still loving the live concert experience. Yeah. Or just, not just music, but after being, shows canceled for a long time, the first show back with a crowd was
my gosh,
yes, this is what we've been missing.
My gosh,
that's cool.
I bet that was wild.
Yeah. And I don't love crowds. I don't really go to shows anymore. If you're going, but working a show and being a part of something that all these people come to have a good time and let go of everything for a night. It's awesome.
Yeah, there is something very magical about that, and I'll always miss that part of the business.
Yeah.
Well, I'll come visit you on the road, man.
Do it.
I have to say, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for allowing me to come and hang out at your house.
Yeah.
In a business sense, I guess you could say, not having a barbecue today, but I really, really do appreciate your time and taking the hospitality always, man. Forever. For 10 years, actually for 9 years. The hospitality is amazing.
Right on.
Now we get to go around the world in different ways.
Yeah.
Well,
it's awesome.
Everybody, Jared, and I just thank you all for tuning in. This will be your midweek treat. Remember, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube, please subscribe, please follow, please share.
Do it.
I'll link up, you said it's Crew Brew? Crew Brew, and maybe a couple videos of Jared mixing. I have some good ones buried in my
nice.
In my folders, so I'll have to go through and see what I got. But again, thank you so much, Jared. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
I'm gonna chug this because we always bottoms up. So
all right.
Bottoms up.
Nice. Okay, you're gonna be awake for a while.
All right, I'm gonna go get a rock star too after this. Love you all. Peace.
Awesome.
That was great.